conflict. When evidence is presented, it does not always lead to immediate agreement. Instead, it often leads to a deeper debate about meaning and intent. Two people can look at the same message and come to completely different conclusions. This is exactly what makes situations like this so complex. Scrappy and Brittany's reactions continue to play a major role here. As they observe Salma's response, they are forming their own opinions. Their body language, facial expressions, and reactions can influence how the moment is perceived. If they appear skeptical, it may put more pressure on Salma. If they seem open to her explanation, it may give her space to defend her position. Another important factor is credibility. In this moment, Salma's credibility is being tested. Nay, it is not just about whether the messages are real. It is about whether her explanation aligns with what is being shown. If there is a clear mismatch, it can damage trust. If her explanation makes sense, it can create doubt about Sierra's interpretation. The emotional intensity of the situation also increases. Being confronted in front of others can be overwhelming. Emotions like frustration, embarrassment, or even anger can come into play. These emotions can influence how Salma communicates, sometimes making it harder to stay calm and composed. At the same time, Sierra's role does not disappear. As Salma responds, Sierra may continue to push back, reinforcing her interpretation of the messages. This back and forth creates a direct conflict where both sides are trying to establish their version of the truth. The tension builds as neither side is willing to back down. This moment also highlights the difference between intention and perception. Salma may believe that her actions or words were misunderstood, while Sierra may see them as clear and intentional. This gap between intention and perception is often at the root of conflicts. It is what makes resolution difficult, because both sides feel justified. Another layer to consider is how the group processes this interaction. Everyone present is not just watching, they are interpreting. Each person may come away with a slightly different understanding of what happened. This can influence future interactions and relationships within the group. The public nature of this confrontation makes everything more intense. If this conversation were happening privately, the reactions might be different. But in a group setting, there is added pressure to respond immediately. There is less time to think and more pressure to defend one's position. We should also consider the long-term impact of this moment on Salma. Being exposed in front of others can affect how she is viewed moving forward. Even if she provides a strong explanation, the initial impression may still linger. This is one of the risks of public confrontation. It creates a lasting image. At this stage, the conflict is at its peak. Both sides have presented their perspectives, emotions are high, and the group is fully engaged in the situation. The outcome is still uncertain, but it is clear that this moment will have lasting consequences. The key takeaway from this section is that Salma's reaction is a defining part of the situation. It determines how the evidence is interpreted, how the group responds, and how the narrative continues to evolve. Her response is not just about defending herself. It is about shaping the direction of the entire conflict. As we move into part 4, we will focus on how Scrappy and Brittany react to everything unfolding in front of them, and how their responses influence the overall direction of the situation. As Sierra exposes the text messages and Salma responds under pressure, the spotlight doesn't stay on just the two of them. It quickly expands to include everyone in the room, especially Scrappy and Brittany. Their reactions are critical because they represent how the situation is being received by others who are directly witnessing it unfold in real time. Up until this point, Scrappy has already shown signs of frustration with gossip and confusion in the group. So when Sierra brings out receipts, this moment hits differently for him. He's not just watching drama, he's evaluating truth. His reaction is shaped by everything he has already been feeling leading up to this moment. You can see the shift in his attention. Before, he might have been listening casually, but now he's locked in. When evidence is presented, it demands focus. Scrappy's body language, facial expressions, and the way he responds verbally all signal that he's trying to process what's real and what's not. If he reacts with surprise, it suggests that the messages reveal something unexpected. If he reacts with frustration, it may confirm what he already suspected. And if he starts questioning either side, it shows that he's not fully convinced yet. Each of these reactions adds a different layer to the situation. Brittany, on the other hand, brings a slightly different energy. While Scrappy may be more emotionally connected to the situation, Brittany can offer a more observational perspective. She's watching both sides, analysing not just what is being said, but how it's being said. Her reaction can serve as a kind of reality check. If she appears skeptical, it may signal that something doesn't fully add up. If she leans toward one side, it can influence how others view the situation. In group dynamics, even subtle reactions can shift the tone of the conversation. As both Scrappy and Brittany react, something important begins to happen. The room starts to divide, not necessarily in an obvious or aggressive way, but in a subtle shift of alignment. People begin to lean toward one perspective or another based on what they believe. This is a natural part of group conflict. When two sides present opposing versions of events, observers often feel the need to decide which one they believe. This doesn't always happen consciously, but it influences how they engage moving forward. Scrappy's role becomes even more significant if he starts asking direct questions. When someone in his position challenges statements or seeks clarification, it forces both Sierra and Salma to be more precise. This can either bring clarity or increase tension, depending on how the questions are answered. Another key element is trust. Scrappy and Brittany are not just reacting to the messages, they are assessing who they trust more in this situation. Trust is built over time. And moments like this can either strengthen or weaken it. If the evidence aligns with what they already believe about someone, it reinforces that trust. If it contradicts their expectations, it creates doubt. The emotional tone in the room continues to rise. As reactions become more visible, the pressure on both Sierra and Salma increases. They are no longer just defending their positions. They are doing so in front of an audience that is actively judging what they see. This creates a feedback loop. The more intense the reactions, the more intense the responses become. Sierra may feel more confident if she senses support. Salma may feel more defensive if she senses doubt. The energy of the room directly influences how the conflict unfolds. Another aspect to consider is how quickly perceptions can form. In moments like this, people often make rapid judgments based on limited information. A single message, a single reaction, or even a single expression can shape how someone is viewed. These impressions can be difficult to change later. We should also look at the role of silence. Not everyone in the room may speak up, but silence itself can be meaningful. If someone chooses not to defend or challenge a statement, it can be interpreted in different ways. It might suggest agreement, uncertainty, or a desire to avoid conflict. Regardless, it still contributes to the overall dynamic. At this point, the group is no longer neutral. The exposure of the messages has forced everyone to engage with the situation in some way. Whether through words, reactions, or silence, each person is now part of the unfolding narrative. Another important factor is how this moment affects future interactions. Once people have taken sides, even subtly, it can influence how they communicate moving forward. It can create alliances, tensions, or shifts in relationships that extend beyond this single moment. The key takeaway from this section is that Scrappy and Brittany's reactions are not just background elements. They are central to how the situation is perceived. Their responses help shape the narrative, influence group dynamics, and determine how the conflict continues. As we move into Part 5, we will explore how the confrontation escalates after these reactions, whether the situation moves toward resolution or further conflict. and what this means for everyone involved. After Sierra exposes the text messages and Scrappy and Brittany react, the situation reaches a new level of intensity. At this point, the conversation is no longer controlled. It's emotional, reactive, and unpredictable. This is where things either start to resolve or completely fall apart. And in this moment, it's clear that tensions are only rising. The first thing that stands out is the shift in tone. What began as a discussion has now turned into a full confrontation. Voices may rise, interruptions become more frequent, and the structure of the conversation breaks down. Instead of one person speaking at a time, multiple people are reacting at once. This is a sign that emotions have taken over. Sierra, having presented the evidence, now stands firm in her position. She has made her point publicly, and there's a sense of confidence in her stance. When someone comes prepared with receipts, they often feel justified, and that confidence can make them more assertive in the conversation. She is no longer trying to prove her point, she believes she already has. On the other side, Salma is now fully in defense mode. Whether she is trying to explain, deny, or reframe the situation, her focus is on protecting her credibility. This creates a direct clash between the two. Neither side is backing down, and that's what pushes the situation further. One of the biggest factors in escalation is overlapping communication. When people begin talking over each other, it becomes harder to actually hear what's being said. This leads to misunderstandings, repeated points, and increased frustration. Each person feels like they are not being heard, which makes them push harder to be understood. Scrappy's role becomes more intense in this phase. Having already shown frustration earlier, this moment can either push him toward trying to mediate or cause him to become more involved in the conflict. If he feels that the situation confirms his concerns about gossip and disrespect, his reaction may become stronger. Brittany also continues to observe, but her role may shift depending on how the situation unfolds. She may step in to offer perspective, attempt to calm things down, or align more clearly with one side. In moments like this, observers often transition into participants as the tension rises. Another key factor is emotional escalation. As voices rise and reactions become more intense, emotions like anger, frustration, and defensiveness take over. These emotions can cloud judgment, making it harder for individuals to communicate clearly or listen to each other. Now the focus shifts from understanding to winning the argument. We should also consider the role of pride. In public confrontations, pride can make it difficult for individuals to step back. Admitting fault or even acknowledging another perspective can feel like losing. As a result, people may double down on their position, even if there is room for compromise. The group dynamic becomes more divided as the confrontation continues. Earlier, we saw subtle shifts in alignment. Now those shifts may become more visible. People may begin to openly support one side, question the other, or attempt to stay neutral. These choices influence how the situation evolves. Another important aspect is the impact of public exposure. Because this confrontation is happening in front of others, there is added pressure. And people are not just dealing with the conflict, they are dealing with how they are being perceived. This can intensify reactions and make the situation feel more serious. At this stage, the conversation may reach a point where it feels like there is no resolution in sight. When emotions are high and positions are firmly established, it becomes difficult to find common ground. This is often the peak of conflict, the moment where everything is out in the open, but nothing has been resolved. However, even in escalation, there is an opportunity. Moments like this can lead to breakthroughs if handled correctly. When everything is on the table, it creates a chance for honesty and clarity. But for that to happen, individuals need to move past defensiveness and focus on understanding. Another layer to consider is the aftermath of this escalation. Even if the confrontation ends without resolution, it leaves an impact. Words that are said in moments of intensity can shape how people view each other moving forward. Relationships may be strained, trust may be affected, and the group dynamic may shift. The key takeaway from this section is that escalation is not just about raised voices. It's about the breakdown of communication and the rise of emotion. It is the point where the situation becomes most intense and where the outcome is still uncertain. As we move into part 6, we will explore what happens after the confrontation, whether the group can recover from this moment, and what this means for their relationships going forward. After the confrontation reaches its peak, the most important question becomes, what happens next? Moments like this don't just end when the conversation stops. They leave an impact. The aftermath is where we begin to see the real consequences of everything that was said, revealed, and felt in that room. The first thing to understand is that once something is exposed publicly, it cannot be undone. Sierra bringing out those text messages in front of Scrappy and Brittany created a moment that everyone witnessed in real time. That kind of exposure changes how people view each other moving forward. Even if the situation is later explained or clarified, the initial impression often sticks. For Sierra, this moment reinforces her position. From her perspective, she came prepared, presented evidence, and stood her ground. That can strengthen her confidence and credibility in the eyes of those who believe her interpretation. However, it also puts her in a position where she has taken a very public stance. Moving forward, people will expect consistency in her words and actions. For Salma, the aftermath is more complicated. Being confronted in front of others, especially with receipts, can affect how she is perceived. Even if she believes her side of the story is valid, the pressure of that moment may have created doubt among others. Rebuilding trust after a public confrontation is not easy. It requires time, clarity, and consistent communication. Scrappy's position after everything unfolds is also important. He entered the situation already frustrated with gossip and lack of respect. What he witnessed may either confirm his concerns or leave him questioning both sides. His reaction moving forward will likely be shaped by whether he feels the situation brought clarity or added more confusion. Brittany, as someone observing the entire interaction, carries a different kind of influence. Observers often become key voices after a confrontation because they can reflect on what they saw from a slightly more neutral position. Her perspective may help shape how others understand what happened, especially if she chooses to speak on it later. Another major factor in the aftermath is trust. Trust is one of the first things to be affected in situations involving gossip and exposure. Once it is shaken, it takes effort to rebuild. People may become more cautious in how they communicate, more guarded in what they share, and more aware of how they are perceived. The group dynamic as a whole is also likely to shift. Before this moment, there may have been underlying tension, but it was not fully addressed. Now, everything has been brought into the open. This creates a new reality for the group. Relationships may be redefined, boundaries may be set, and communication patterns may change. One possible outcome is resolution. This would require both sides to step back, reflect, and engage in honest conversation. Resolution does not mean agreement. It means understanding. If Sierra and Salma are able to communicate directly and clarify their perspectives, it could lead to a stronger and more transparent relationship. However, resolution is not guaranteed. Another possibility is continued tension. If either side feels misunderstood, disrespected, or unwilling to compromise, the conflict may continue. This can lead to ongoing disagreements, hard distance within the group, and a lingering sense of unresolved issues. We should also consider the role of accountability in the aftermath. Accountability involves recognizing one's actions and understanding their impact. If individuals are willing to acknowledge their role in the situation, It can open the door for growth. Without accountability, the same patterns are likely to repeat. Another important element is reflection. After a high-intensity moment, taking time to reflect can provide valuable insight. Reflection allows individuals to process what happened, understand their own reactions, and consider how they want to move forward. This step is often overlooked but is essential for long-term change. The impact of this moment may also extend beyond the immediate group. When situations like this become visible to a wider audience, they influence how others perceive the individuals involved. Public perception can add another layer of pressure, as people may feel the need to manage how they are seen. Consistency moving forward will be key. Whether it's rebuilding trust, improving communication, or addressing underlying issues, change requires ongoing effort. One conversation or one moment is not enough to fix everything. It is the actions that follow that determine whether things improve. Another possibility is growth through conflict. While conflict is often seen as negative, it can also be an opportunity for development. When handled correctly, it can lead to better understanding, stronger boundaries, and improved relationships. The challenge is turning that opportunity into reality. At this stage, the situation remains open-ended. The confrontation has created a turning point, but the direction from here depends on how each individual chooses to respond. Will they move toward resolution, or will the tension continue to grow? The key takeaway from this section is that the aftermath is just as important as the confrontation itself. What happens next will shape the future of these relationships and determine whether this moment leads to growth or division. If you've been watching this unfold, you already know this wasn't just another moment. It was a turning point. Sierra bringing out those receipts changed everything. But now the real question is, what happens next? Who do you believe? Was Sierra justified in exposing the messages? Or do you think there's more to Salma's side of the story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and join the conversation, but keep it real and respectful. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future breakdowns and drama updates. We're going to keep bringing you the full story behind moments like this, so stay locked in. Because in situations like this, there's always more beneath the surface than what you see. #LHHATL, #love, and hip-hop, Atlanta #reality, TV drama, #Sierra, #Scrappy, #Brittany at VH1, at love and hip-hop. हाँ तुम मुझे भी यही लगता है अगर कोई इस चोरी को सही तरह से अंजाम दे सकता है तो मैं तो बेकार में उंगली मत करो प्लीज ऐसे आइडियाज मेरे दिमाग में मत डालो आई एम सॉरी गुड नाइट मुझे प्रोफेसर से बात करनी पड़ेगी अभी आती हूँ वैसा मुझे इंचार्ज करना है इस चोरी का मैं ज्यादा टैलेंटेड हूँ तो क्यों बुरा मत मानो पर क्या हम ये बातें कर सकते हैं नहीं कल सुबह नहीं अभी उसे भी इंचार्ज बनाना है देखो डॉक्टर उसे इंचार्ज बनाना है क्योंकि इस चोरी की प्लानिंग काफी टाइम पहले से शुरू हो चुकी थी और पहले ने इस पर काफी काम किया और वो इस प्लान को समझ तो मैं भी प्लान समझ लूंगी मुझे समझ बहुत जल्दी सीखी गाय की 2 आंखें और 4 पैर इसकी पूंछ होती है वो हमें दूध देती है और इसलिए हमारी बातें आती है गाय कैसे मुझे सब कुछ याद है हाँ मैं जानता हूँ तो क्यों तुम हमारी प्राइवेट मोमेंट्स से कबाब में हड्डी बन क्या बात है सेक्स करने में कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं वाह क्या ये सही है ओह तो
वो आप और मैं वो लंबे से बात करने और आप स्ट्रैटेजी लेकिन साला मुझसे बेहतर लीडर आपको कहीं नहीं मिलेगा क्योंकि जब बातें करना शुरू हो जाती है तो मैं संभालती हूँ तो इस किताब से नहीं सिखाया कि आप क्या अंतर होता है तो दोस्तों अब ऑर्डर्स मैं दूंगी शुरू करते हैं
ऑर्डर्स देगी मतलब इंचार्ज हमारे लिए जीनियस और सर्किल पार्टनर जिस सारी की वजह से हम सब यहाँ फंसे हैं जो हमारी जान खतरे में भी डाल सकती है ठीक है तुम लोग डॉक्टर डॉक्टर खेलते रहो तब तक मैं अपनी अगली चाल सोचता हूँ
अगला आधा घंटा हमारे लिए सबसे डिफिकल्ट था उस आधे घंटे में पुलिस कुणाल के हस्बैंड पर गोली चला रही थी उन्होंने हमें एक दूसरे से अलग और परेशान कर दिया था प्रोफेसर लगता है आदमी की उनकी चीजों के बारे में सोच रहा था मुझे भी कि अगर उसने ये फोन आधे घंटे पहले लगा दिया होता तो इतनी ज्यादा भी नहीं होती
का फेसबुक शुरू करूँगा बिल्कुल अलिसिया प्यार से बात करनी है और समझौता करना है
प्रोफेसर और दूसरी औरत को फोन लगा रहे हो नाची बॉय तुम तो बहुत ठरकी निकले
क्या उसे मारने का ऑर्डर तुमने दिया
इतना टाइम कहा था उसने खुद को गोली मार ली भाई और पुलिस पर गोलियां चलाने लगी बिल्कुल एक धोखेबाज की तरह
वो हाईवे पे बोलवा के पास तुम्हारी बताई हुई लोकेशन से तकरीबन 42 किलोमीटर दूर निकल चुका है तुम्हें यकीन है अगर ये उसकी जान तो इन्फॉर्मेशन बिल्कुल सही है हम सिग्नल ट्रेस कर रहे हैं वो नेशनल हाईवे 435 पर है उसका पीछा करो सारी यूनिट ध्यान से सुनो यहाँ से चलो टारगेट नेशनल हाईवे 435 से बचकर निकल रहा है उसका तुम लोग पीछा करो बात ध्यान से सुनना सीधा तुम्हारी बैक और स्ट्रीट से निकलने से पहले मैं तुम्हें पूरी तरह तबाह कर दूंगा
तुम्हारा तो ईमान है या नहीं प्रोफेसर तुमने पुलिस पर रॉकेट चलाकर ये साबित किया कि तुम अल-कायदा के दर्जे के हो बिग बैंग बूम क्या धमाका किया था
अपनी गलती सुधार लूंगा और तुम्हें भी मौका दे रहा हूँ अपनी गलती सुधारने का नायरोबी
मैं अंदर सजन नहीं बचने वाली मेरे पास इससे भी अच्छा आइडिया है नायरोबी को बाहर भेजो और उसके लिए एम्बुलेंस यहाँ बात खड़ी होगी
नायरोबी को उसको यहाँ से नहीं सोच सकता जिसने उसे मारने की कोशिश की तभी हमें ऐसा भुगतना पड़ेगा
अच्छा मेरे को बदली काटने लगी ठीक है समझौते का हाथ बढ़ाकर मैं तुम पे एक एहसान कर देती हूँ अगले 48 घंटे तुम उस पर नजर रखो देखो उसकी हालत कैसी है या उसे मरने के लिए छोड़ दो
पर एक बात सुन लो नायरोबी को मरने नहीं दूंगा मदद करो
और हम बचकर कैसे निकलेंगे?
उसके लिए प्लान है मेरे।
और वो क्या है?
मार्सेला की वास्तविक पहचान पर पुलिस वाले दो मिलाकर उसके पीछे भाग देंगे।
हम उन्हें भरोसा दिलाएंगे कि हम वहां से निकल चुके हैं।
सही कहा। हम कभी कुछ चीजें छोड़कर जाएंगे और उन पर भरोसा करने के लिए कुछ सबूत भी छोड़ेंगे। जिन पेड़ों पर हम छुपे होंगे वहां उन्हें कुछ नहीं मिलेगा।
और जब पुलिस वहां से निकल जाएगी, पेड़ों से नीचे आ जाएंगे, बंदर जैसे चमक रहे।
तुम्हें नहीं लगता कि इस लुका छुपी खेलने वाला है? मुझे आलू बुखारा क्यों है?
शायद तुम्हारी स्ट्रेस की वजह से।
इसका क्या मतलब है?
एक्सरसाइज की जरूरत है।
तुम्हारा मतलब मेरी जान से या मेरे मोटापे से है? चलो रहने दो, इसका जवाब देने की जरूरत नहीं। तुमने कानून तोड़ा। मुझे आलू बुखारा नहीं कहना चाहिए। अब हर किसी को इसके बारे में पता चाहिए। जनता, इंटरनल अफेयर, जुडिशियरी, हर एक को। मुझे तो इसके बारे में पता ही नहीं था जब तक सोशल मीडिया पर मैंने इसकी नहीं मिली।
मुझे माफ कर दो अजीब। तुम इससे पूछोगे कि नहीं जी, पर ये सब कुछ क्यों किया?
नहीं, मैं जानता हूँ तुमने ये प्यार किया। मेड्रिड पहुंचते ही तुम्हारी कॉपरेशन के लिए तुम्हें डील ऑफर करेंगे।
हथियारों के साथ चोरी, देश की शांति को भंग करना, गवर्नमेंट का विरोध करना, हथियारों का उपयोग, छुपे राज निकालना, चोरों का साथ देना और साथ ही अपहरण, सभी टाइपों का, और खुद की बेटी। इसलिए चाहे वो कोई भी डील क्यों ना, चाहे कोई भी डील या खुद सिस्टम मदद करना चाहे, कम से कम 30 साल की सजा तो बनती। इसका मतलब मेरी लग चुकी है। मिस्टर आलो, अपने इंस्ट्रक्शन को क्लियर और पॉइंट टू पॉइंट।
फिलहाल हमें 3 खोल की कोशिश की जरूरत है।
हमारे पास अभी है
Islamabad, Pakistan.
अभी तो
Our sound background line sound.
तीन ऑपरेशन जितना ब्लड चाहिए और दूसरा वाले को डॉक्टर होगा। वो बोला नीचे जाओ, सोने का घर से रहना हमारे लिए जरूरी है। जाओ। अब तुम बिल्कुल भरोसा नहीं कर पाएगा।
पता है मेरे इंचार्ज ना होने से तुम लोगों को यहाँ से कैसे ले जाया जाएगा? सर झुकाए, हाथ में हथकड़ी लगाए और फिर तुम अपनी जान की भीख मांगोगे जब तुम्हारा एनकाउंटर कर दिया जाएगा। इसलिए मैं तो चला गुड बाय।
गुड बाय। आगे बोलो डॉक्टर। स्कैल्पल।
अगर कोई घायल होता है तो हमें उसकी जान बचाने के तरीके पता होने चाहिए। हम कुछ जरूरी चीजें सीखेंगे। अगर किसी को गोली लग जाती है तब ये काम नहीं आएगा। हमारे मिलिट्री ट्रक में चोरी की चीजों के साथ साथ हम पूरी मेडिकल किट भी रखेंगे। अगर किसी वक्त सर्जरी करने की नौबत आई तो डॉक्टर ने मदद करती है और हमसे 7,000 किलोमीटर दूर। इसलिए सर्जरी तुम ही करोगे, जो आसान नहीं होगी। गलती की कोई जगह नहीं। हाथ कांप नहीं सकते क्योंकि सामने टेबल पर मरा हुआ चाकू नहीं। तुम में से कोई एक होगा।
इसकी क्या रहा पासा?
हमेशा घाव की जगह को साफ रखो। समझ में आ गई तुम्हें मेरी बात? बढ़िया।
अब क्या करना?
हमें बस ये वाला करना होगा। जरूरत पड़े तो किसी हद का हिस्सा भी हमें निकालना पड़ सकता है।
इसके अंदर आपको
ये ना बात है, क्या लाओ?
क्या तुम लोग चाहते हो कि हम सब
आप
के अपने
मुझे
निकलने
जाएगा
को
उठी
चेक करें?
उठी उठी नहीं जाऊंगी मैं वही वही नहीं बना कितना दिन हो गए ओए अल्लाह वाला 40 दिन आ गई यार ये आ गया ना बाहर भी हो
रोटी जो भी बना
जीरो जीरो
अरे प्रोफेसर, मैं नहीं हूँ, चलो आ जाओ। चलो उठो, पुलिस चलेगी। और वो सांड? कौन सा सांड? हाँ तो मुझे बॉडी सुन पड़ रही है। इससे आपको कुछ याद नहीं आ रहा? इटली, हाँ पहली बार मिले, कुछ शादी में। एक मिनट, ये बुके पकड़ने का नाटक तो कुंवारी लड़कियां करती हैं। हाँ जी, तुम्हें क्या यहाँ कुंवारी लड़कियां दिखाई देती? नहीं ना, इसीलिए तो तुम सबको यहाँ रखा है।
ये ट्रेडिशन है कि दुल्हन बुके पीछे फेंकती है। मैं भी वही करने वाली हूँ। सिर्फ पीछे जाओ ना।
जल्दी करो, पीछे हटो। एक बैंड, एक गई, एक घूंघा और एक लड़की। क्या बात है, चैलेंजेस तो बड़े मस्त हैं। मैं गूंगा नहीं हूँ, मैं बस थोड़ा शांत हूँ। और मेरी कोई मेरे लिए प्लीज अगली बार से मुझे सर क्यों बुलाना? ए लड़कियों, चलो इधर ध्यान दो, दुल्हन बुके फेंकने के लिए तैयार खड़ी है।
जल्दी करो आंटी ना, थोड़ा और पीछे, बस
थोड़ा और पीछे, थोड़ा और। छोटे भाई, मारा को छोटे भाई। अब वक्त आ गया है मिसेस मोहम्मद और शादी का जश्न शुरू करने का। एक उससे पहले आपकी इज्जत करें। Ti amo, un solo ti amo, in aria ti amo, se viene in testa vuol dire che basta, lasciamoci ti amo, io solo ti amo, in fondo un
अच्छा
uomo
वैसे दे
che
दे
non ha freddo nel cuore nel
ना
letto come
ना हो रही है
mio
बात
madre.
यार नदी तो ये नदी हमारी पूरा नहीं वीडियो पहले वीडियो बना था ये तो वहाँ का लाग लेकिन वहाँ का कौन ही है ये तो चलती है
तक नहीं आता प्रोफेसर ने उनकी तरफ टेबल पर बैठे रहे और खुद से सवाल किया सबसे ज्यादा क्या जरूरी है प्यार या मौत
जिंदगी सबसे जरूरी है जीवन में जिंदगी अब आपने देख लो हम मरने वाले हैं लेकिन फिर भी शादी कर रहे हैं मरने से पहले जीना क्यों छोड़े छोटे भाई हमारी बीमारी के बारे में जानते हैं हाँ बिल्कुल जानती है काफी समझदार है अगर एक तरह से सोचा जाए तो कितना सही है सोचो लोगों को तो अपनी मौत का पता तक नहीं आता लेकिन हम जब तक साथ जिएंगे खुशी से जिएंगे लोग शैंपेन की बोतल खोलते हैं खास जश्न के वक्त और उसी वक्त अपनी बोतल जिंदगी में वापस चले जाते अगर हम अपनी जिंदगी इन इम्पोर्टेड शैंपेन की बोतल से बेहतर जिएंगे
शादी खा दी
बाद में काम एक बत्ती डिवाइस आपने ओरिजिनल लगा हम तो लाइक दिया
और जिंदगी जीने का सबसे बेहतर तरीका
वो जरा उस्मान था लाइक बोलें करे था स्टोरी देखी काफी बड़ा बात करते
आप चाहो तो मुझे शेयर कर सकते हो आपकी जो भी फीलिंग हो ये सुनने का मन कर रहा है ये चीज सुनने से मन हल्का हो जाता है
कैसा कैसे आ रहा है तो तेज दिमाग में वो बताया खाली
खून किस लिए चाहिए
तुझे में पड़ी कि सारा खून किसके लिए चाहिए
मैंने देखा था टेलीविजन लेकर दो लोग ऊपर गए हैं लेकिन अब एक ही दिख रही है
अब पता चला है किसके लिए चाहिए तुम मुंह बंद करके बैठ
तेरा 521 वो रात 13 घंटे एकड़े लाइव था आई एड़ा चैनल से आएगा 521
रात दा 521
हां
जो भी लाइव दे
भले तो सोचे लाइव
मैं बस जो भी नजर नहीं फिर में आ गया ना जो भी नजर आ गया रात घंट कंसा का लोग 565 है वो आया 72 किया
अब नाल में पेन
यार को लंदा नहीं से धारा को ना बंदा तंग ये हम हालान बुरल दी भी है वो ही कोई सच्चाई बदल बारह के बाद कनौला 18,000 रुपए गहाई लेनी पई कोई नाराज सुनता पे 10,000 रुपया उन्हें को दिया चलो हिसाब करो पीछे बच गया आपस में खड़े इतना बड़ा तंग है ना कुरान पाक की कसम है ना पानी ला दे जो पिछला सारा हिसाब करो तो बस वो तो छोड़ दे बड़ा
just to get work done. A simple task turns into a time-consuming mess because work sprawl has scattered the tools and context we rely on. And the trend towards bundling software isn't addressing the root of the problem. The system's broken, and it's wasting our time. 8 years ago, we started with a mission to save people time from switching between a bunch of different applications. But we knew the answer wasn't just bundling a bunch of tools. It was like dating.
और कोई व्यवस्था निकल रही है भाई
कोई पता नहीं उतने हालात पता नहीं
12 12:30 के तो निकल रहे हैं मान कितने से
Was like dating Erica? She's incredibly loyal.
I'm gonna treat my boyfriend like my fiance and my fiance like my husband. We're gonna do this the right way. Did Charlie feel that Abigail was Erica's ex-boyfriend when he was playing him one-on-one and he posted the picture? And also, why does Kevin Phillips have the word pizza tattooed on the inside of his inner lip? Because it just seems coincidental that a lot of us think that's a clue or something.
तो 12:30 तक मानी हो तो 12:30 तो वो बन गए वापस तो बदल के चल
दिनाजा गड़ 40 किलो मार के दवा मार मार 100 किलो मार मेरे 60 किलो मार
And across that exact time frame, the carefully constructed image of someone who arrived emotionally clean and mentally She may have continued seeing Kevin Phillips, even while she was already going on dates with Charlie.
I'm there thinking it's a...
Then she started texting him this. I said I had a gift for you. No. Oh, for real, I love gifts. You still love me.
Things just got exposed, and there was no coming back from it. What started as a tense conversation quickly turned into one of the most shocking moments of the episode. Sierra didn't just defend herself, she came with receipts. Right in front of Scrappy and Brittany, she pulls out text messages that completely change the energy in the room. And suddenly, everything Salma said is being questioned. But here's the twist. Are these messages telling the full story, or just one side of it? Because as emotions rise and reactions start pouring in, it becomes clear this isn't just about texts. It's about trust, loyalty, and who's really being real behind the scenes. So what exactly did Sierra reveal? How did Salma respond? And why did this moment leave everyone in shock? Let's break down what really happened. Before the moment where Sierra exposes the text messages, it's important to understand that this didn't come out of nowhere. Situations like this rarely start with one conversation. They build over time through tension, misunderstandings, and unresolved issues. By the time Sierra decides to bring out the receipts, the energy in the room is already charged. At the beginning of the scene, the group dynamic feels tense but controlled. Sierra, Salma, Scrappy, and Brittany are all present, and there's already a sense that something needs to be addressed. The conversation may start off calm, but underneath that calm is a layer of frustration that has clearly been building for some time. One of the key factors leading up to this moment is communication, or rather, the lack of clear and direct communication. When people talk about each other instead of to each other, it creates confusion. Messages get misinterpreted, intentions get questioned, and small issues can quickly grow into larger conflicts. In this case, it seems like there have been conversations happening behind the scenes and not everyone has the same version of what was said. Sierra's energy in this moment is important. She doesn't come in uncertain or hesitant. She comes in prepared. That preparation suggests that she already anticipated how the conversation might go. When someone comes prepared with evidence, it usually means they expect to be challenged. Preparation suggests that they are ready to defend their position, not just with words, but with proof. On the other side, Salma appears to be operating from her own understanding of the situation. Whether she believes she's right or simply has a different perspective, she seems confident in what she's saying. This creates a direct clash because both sides feel justified. When two people are equally confident in opposing viewpoints, conflict becomes almost inevitable. Scrappy and Brittany's presence adds another layer to the dynamic. They are not just observers. They are part of the environment that influences how the situation unfolds. Their reactions, body language, and responses all contribute to the tension. In group settings like this, even silent reactions can shape the direction of a conversation. As the discussion continues, the tone begins to shift. What may have started as a conversation turns into a confrontation. Voices may not necessarily be raised immediately, but the intensity increases. You can see it in the way people respond, the pauses between statements, and the way certain comments land. This is often the moment where things can go in one of two directions. Either the group finds a way to communicate clearly and resolve the issue, or the tension escalates into something more dramatic. In this case, the signs point toward escalation. There is too much unresolved tension, too many conflicting perspectives, and not enough clarity. Another important element is trust. At the core of this situation is a question of who is telling the truth. When trust is uncertain, every statement becomes suspect. People begin to question not just what is being said, but why it is being said. This creates a defensive environment where individuals feel the need to protect themselves. Sierra's decision to bring text messages into the conversation is a turning point, but it is also a response to this lack of trust. When words alone are not enough, people often turn to evidence. Text messages, in particular, are seen as direct proof because they capture conversations as they happened. However, even evidence can be interpreted in different ways depending on context. Before the reveal happens, there is a moment where you can feel the tension peak. It's the point where it becomes clear that something bigger is about to happen. The conversation reaches a level where simple explanations are no longer enough. This is where Sierra makes her move. Her decision to expose the messages in front of everyone is significant. It is not just about proving a point, it is about doing it publicly. And by bringing the evidence into the group setting, she is forcing everyone to confront it at the same time. This removes the possibility of private interpretation and puts everything out in the open. This kind of moment changes the entire dynamic of the group. Once evidence is introduced, the conversation shifts from opinion to verification. It becomes less about what people believe and more about what can be shown. However, this does not necessarily resolve the conflict. It often intensifies it. The reactions of those present become just as important as the evidence itself. Scrappy and Brittany are now witnessing something that directly impacts how they view both Sierra and Salma. Their reactions will influence how the situation continues to unfold. At this stage, the build-up has reached its peak. The tension, the lack of trust, and the conflicting perspectives, all of it has led to this moment. Sierra is ready to present her side, Salma is standing by hers, and the group is about to see something that could change everything. The key takeaway from this section is that the explosion we're about to see is not random. It is the result of everything that came before it. Every conversation, every misunderstanding, every moment of doubt has contributed to this point. As we move into part 2, we will break down the exact moment Sierra exposes the text messages, what those messages reveal, and how the room reacts in real time. The moment Sierra decides to pull out the text messages is where everything shifts. Up until this point, the conversation has been built on words, claims, denials, and different versions of the truth. But the second those messages come out, the dynamic changes completely. This is no longer just a back-and-forth discussion. Now, there is something tangible on the table. You can feel the shift instantly. The energy in the room tightens. Conversations slow down. People start paying closer attention. This is the kind of moment where everyone realizes that whatever comes next is going to matter. Sierra isn't just talking anymore. She's about to show something. What makes this moment powerful is not just the fact that Sierra has the messages, but the way she presents them. She doesn't hesitate. She doesn't back down. Instead, she confidently brings the receipts forward, making it clear that she came prepared for this exact situation. That level of confidence immediately grabs everyone's attention. When someone presents evidence in a group setting, it forces everyone to pause. Our Scrappy and Brittany, who were previously listening and observing, now shift into a different role.